hope, love, pride. Presented by Waymo.
Well, the pride flag was raised today at the San Jose Police Headquarters in the continuation of a new tradition. In 2019, SJPD became the first major police department to fly the rainbow flag. And while the pride flag is bright and colorful, history shows us that the ties between law enforcement and the LGBTQ community has been dark and full of tension.
KPIX5's Andria Borba takes a look back on those events and what still needs to be done to improve relations.
Everyone knows Stonewall, the 1969 rebellion in Greenwich Village by gay men following a raid by NYPD at a known gay bar. The history is documented in photos, in video, and print. At the corner of Turk and Taylor, only a small plaque on the sidewalk commemorates the Compton's cafeteria riot of August 1966.
Compton Cafeteria was a 24-hour diner in which folks sort of migrate towards to end their night.
Folks being trans and gay people. In 1966, San Francisco had laws against cross-dressing. SFPD raided, and armed with high heels and purses, the first uprising of the gay community happened. Unlike Stonewall, there are no photos, no media. Even the police records have been destroyed.
And the fact that we don't have any documentation, that we don't have photos of that night or press coverage from the event, that it makes it difficult for us to really be able to fully document the history.
Compton's was the beginning, the moment of ignition of hostilities between the LGBTQ community and SFPD.
I think in the future, any policeman who hassles anybody, gay, black, Chicano, or whatever, will think twice now.
Even as Harvey Milk was recruiting people and becoming the first openly gay elected official in America, the tensions and brutality remained.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Frustrations reached a crescendo on May 21st, 1979. When former Supervisor Dan White was only found guilty of voluntary manslaughter, not first-degree murder, for the assassination of Milk in his office in City Hall, gay men marched from the Castro, torching police cars in retaliation. Today, the San Francisco Police Department has nearly 200 openly gay LGBTQ officers, nearly 10% of the force. Among them, Officer Catherine Winters.
I probably wouldn't have been able to be part of that police department. I wouldn't be able to have been an out trans woman.
While there is representation, the question some leaders are asking, is that enough? For Jupiter Peraza, Director of Social Justice Initiatives for the Trans District, that answer is no.
I do believe that there are still tensions. What I would characterize it as is that those tensions have been swept under the rug.
Peraza points to the increased police presence in the Tenderloin, a neighborhood beset by drugs and the myriad problems associated with it, which overlaps with the trans district. She says to the often marginalized trans community, the law enforcement presence hinders more than it helps.
Having that presence in the neighborhood does instill the idea that there isn't a sense of autonomy or freedom in a way.
Those tensions have manifested themselves in a fight over whether or not in-uniform LGBTQ officers from the San Francisco Police Department will be allowed to march in the late June parade. Officer Winters marched for the first time ever in 2018. With her daughters by her side, it was a moment that took her breath away.
And when we turned onto Market Street and the crowds cheered for us, I broke down in tears. It was the first time that I felt that I was really bringing all parts of myself out into the public. Both myself as a trans woman, myself as a police officer, myself as a mother. Every part of me was walking onto Market Street that day.
After weeks of tension and Mayor London Breed announcing she wouldn't take part,
Happy Pride!
A compromise has been reached. Some officers will be allowed in uniform, others in SFPD T-shirts. Officer Winters acknowledges the conversation around in-uniform officers marching is fraught.
And I understand that this uniform does bring some history with it. And I understand that history, we can't just snap our fingers and make that go away.
Peraza says the relationship between the LGBTQ community and the police department is not mended by having gay, lesbian, and trans officers. She says accountability is needed.
Accountability looks like reform, fundamental reform.
Officer Winters agrees that history cannot be erased by slapping a rainbow patch on a uniform, even marching in a parade. Fences that need mending often require more than one patch.
While we make progress, we realize when we get to where we think we need to be, that there's still more work to be done.
In San Francisco, Andria Borba, KPIX 5.